before a legend can be built or broken. Someone like me is needed to create a stage for fabled folk to rise and fly from, or plummet to a dishonourable fate. I had no dreams of holding so much power when first King Richard called me to his side, but fated for such work, I often wonder if dangerous ways were always on my path. Great lions of head and heart roared in his being, a man of such devout and regal ways that leaders of the realm had called upon him and asked, pleaded, and begged him to be king. That such a man could find himself cast downward in such a devious, utter, complete way, I fear says less about my leader's kingship than of the hateful one who saw him slain. When first he caught my glance among a meeting of better folk than I would prove to be, it seemed he saw within my presentation a mind that shared a happy kingdom's dream. He raised me up from nothing with a few words, a simple Jack, become a gentleman. Because I showed connection with his vision, when first he told the Parliament of Lords his aim to summon forth and lead for England a new age of prosperity and peace. My task was that which I was given life for, a pleasure and a game, never a chore. To dance with words and place promising pictures within the minds of all who wielded law, convince them all to join the dance with Richard and end divisions that so pained our land. The king endowed me with a badge of honour, a gilded silver boar given by his hand, an emblem saying I spoke for crown and country, his emblem to be worn with humble pride. I often wondered on its curious conflict. Why gild silver? Is silver not enough? But soon I came to think it was a warning for those who spoke for him but were not him. Not for me a golden crown of princehood, even if I did act for the king. Plantagenet roses had clashed in battle for such a time that none could see an end. But Richard told us it was all that mattered, and soon I came to clearly understand my work was to coerce if not recruit those who found convenience in continued war, to dance, deceive, distract with my directives, if any such delivered his desire. And hence, my badge reflected my masked mission, to act as gilding on the royal throne. So, even if I made some murderous moments, there never would be staining on the crown. The more I danced with power, it enthralled me. I always knew that learned lorded minds, their differing dreams, desires and ambitions might be as worthy as those of the king. But as lords I seduced, in turn seduced me. I told myself it was not simple greed that turned my thoughts to profiting in person from gilded silver power at my hands. For was it not the teaching in the token that, since I could not ever be the gold, I should sell my talent to the highest bidder, because my silver tongue was all I had? I cannot clearly tell how much my dancing brought two great nobles to a battlefield, but I recognise the words between the parties as words I had presented in my act. An overcast and woeful Monday morning saw 15,000 men lined at the ends of deeply furrowed farmland, helpless witness to one last battle for the country's crown. "Your badge is broken," Richard told me sternly, as moments dropped away to someone's doom. "Pray tell to me, sir, is it not a portent of injury that I'll befall today?" I glanced upon my chest to see the token pinned in place, but with a missing leg. "Not so, my lord," I cried with great emotion. "It is the only bruise of one small scuffle, the only wound or ill I have to show for a mild disagreement with some lookouts of Henry Richmond's slow advancing horde. We met them late last night, not 5 miles that way, outside your market town of Atherstone. And though 5 of our group did fall and die there, my only hurt is to my royal badge." I changed my face to one of such conviction and stated with a deep-held certainty, "I say it is a promise that such hurting has reached its end and no more will there be." Richard laughed. "Such battle scars are fitting for those who take tomorrow's side in war. Wear it with pride. I thought first to replace it. But keep your wounded boar, and we shall see." I will not speak well of that field near Bosworth. It was not noble, nor was it proud or grand. Instead, a world of heaving, crying demons, hacking, stabbing, flailing as they might. We started on the north and slowly battled towards Lord Henry's troops lined to the south. The king himself, his crown upon his helmet, directing fights and fighting as he went, while all the time the men of the Lords Stanley stopped upon the hill off to the east. The king had told those loyal knights to linger until the moment came to be unleashed. The towers of the churches of Stoke Golding and Dadlington played platform to the folk who watched the desperate dance for England's future unfold upon the meadows where they worked. Cannon roared and handguns puffed and panicked, while bowmen launched their showers of killing rain. Pikemen sweated, billmen fought for footholds, while mercenaries hoped upon their pay. And all the time, reserved from such commitment, Sir William Stanley's men stood on their hill, and nearer to Lord Henry and his lifeguards, Sir William's brother, Thomas, kept well clear. The Stanleys' troops were numbered near 4,000. Decisive change would come from their attack. And as the king made headway across the farmlands, there came a moment that seemed sent by God. A clear approach to Henry Tudor's vanguard loomed out from all the smoke and fire and fear. And Richard waved his sword thrice round to tell me to order all the Stanley's men to charge. And that was when my dancing reached its utmost. The twisting and the turning of 2 years culminated in the simplest signal. With great deliberation, I became the only man who did not make a motion, but not a man who did not force a change. It cannot be that I I beheld the king's eyes from such a distance over such a scene. It must be that our glances met between us. Another skirmish mid so many more. Yet while those were over sheer survival, ours was for ownership of truth. Time stopped, it seemed to me, and all fell silent. Nothing moved or breathed or thought or felt. He nodded slight, perhaps an understanding, perhaps even forgiveness for what I'd done. God slay me as the monster I had nurtured since ever I was spat from poison womb, drowned deep in bile. I needed now to shatter into a hateful, bloodied, cursed mess. And yet, I stood still in the maelstrom. A ship unto the storm, a stubborn keep. And knew, as I sensed deep determination, I wish I'd sooner known that I had. The scheme I had arranged would take its course. For payment, I would soon see as a curse. The king turned on his horse to those around him, then thrust his sword on high and galloped forth, direct towards the corner of the blood field where Henry watched as others did his work. Among the many talents Richard mustered was mastery of tactics, and his run might easily have shortly stopped the battle if only he had reached Lord Henry's place. But now my lords of Stanley turned to action and launched their men downhill to the melee, so Richard was surrounded and outnumbered, his fate now sealed, delivered well by me. I cannot truly say that I bore witness to all the details of his empire's end, but felt the change as all engaged in battle perceived the final act of one brave soul. "I'll end this day as king or in a coffin," he cried as he engaged a dozen men and scattering whimpering dogs who'd called him Hedgehog, who fled before the charge of bellowing Boar. But even dexterous fighters cannot counter the fact of having no clear space to turn. One halberd struck the crown upon his helmet. A silent moment lasted for a year. Then, as he dropped half senseless to his own soil, the blows rained down. His rein broke like his bones. I snatched the Gilded Boar badge from my armour and hid it deep within my underclothes, then ran with all the power I could muster to where, by now, the only action was. The silence deepened. Tension left the meadow. A cooling breeze refreshed a changed land. The dozen men round Richard ceased their hacking and cheered with raw, dry throats to the sky. At once, I saw the golden crown of England, cast aside amid the battle's heat, had wheeled itself beneath a nearby hawthorn and lay there like some cast-off horse's shoe. I dashed for it, retrieved it, stared upon it, the damage from the battle plain to see, when one of Stanley's knights appeared behind me, and instantly I settled on my course. "Take me to King Henry," I said sharply. The title and the crown, first linked in thought. Subdued from any pause for asking questions, he led me through the lines of enemies, a journey of but 6 or 7 minutes that meant much more to all who saw, and me. I had not seen the Earl of Richmond's aspect from any distance, close enough to note he clearly lacked a certain princely presence, the such as Richard's face had always shown. From on his hill, the victor glared upon me. And who are you to carry such a thing? Within his speech, I surely sensed real danger. This could be my last moment on earth. I took my knees. The crown was given over. Head low, I held up Richard's gilded badge, made much of it being broken at the foreleg, the rough edge flashing silver through the gold. Such damage done by Henry's mother Margaret when we had met 5 miles and 1 night hence to make the deal that brought the crown to Henry, to mark me as the traitor in the field. Soldiers, priests and villagers bore witness as England's monarch kneeled upon his land and Thomas Stanley laid the crown of Richard upon his head, thus ending one long dance. Its cuts and scars reflecting those adorning the broken corpse of Richard at his feet. Before we moved to Leicester, there to plan a house of roses under Tudor rule, I stole back to the bush where I'd committed the bravest and the worst act of my time. I took the badge of Richard from my pocket and pushed it deep into the bloodied ground. I may have told myself I paid him honour. I may have meant to do such in my heart. But truth, I needed rid of that reminder my own medal of metal had been cast, never more to even seek for gilding, or even dream that silver was my match. My first act for the Royal House of Tudor was cruel and fickle, but all evidence that I could easily secure my future by dancing dark to gild King Henry's throne. I bade him make it law that he'd been monarch since just 1 day before the Bosworth fight, and thus could try Plantagenets and kill them for treasonous rebellion against the crown. And now, I must be on our great Lord's business, to cover future crimes with time-lapsed lies, to do to Richard what I did for Richard, to brighten Henry's sun by snuffing lights. A slight droop in one shoulder makes a hunched back. The sadness of 2 nephews lost, a crime. The noble's making of his coronation retold as evil scheming of his own. These tales and others, sanctioned by my master, reduced to naught the halberd's fatal strike. That just killed Richard on the field of battle, while I destroy him in eternity. I watch the shadows as they slide and slither. The sun goes down like light was never made. The crowd rejoice as vassals of King Henry. We need their fear. I ponder my next lie. While history will never know my name, and those who follow me will take the blame.